It's a pleasure to introduce our own Connie Shaw. She's an author, speaker, media guest, teacher of a process of radical transformation. She's been a consultant in business and industry, was hijacked in Egypt, but escaped, has traveled to Asia by dugout, canoe, elephant, back, train, and bus. She's been on the spiritual path for over 30 years and has been the subject of numerous documentaries, videos, interviews in recent months. Mother Mary's messages to Connie emphasize hope, courage, and empowerment of the individual through information, inner attunement, optimism, faith, proactive coalition building. My mistake. Connie's messages are practical, urgent, and inspirational. I didn't realize how many things she really had done until she spoke for our monthly meeting recently. And I know you're going to enjoy every minute of whatever she has to say, whether it is predictions, prophecies, healings, messages from Mother Mary, Sai Baba, or whomever. Please give your best attention and your best welcome to Connie Shaw.
Good evening, friends, and it is a good evening, and it is a good life, regardless of how things appear. The title of tonight's talk is Emerging Divinity, Our Imminent Challenges. Many years ago, an attractive poster caught my eye. You may have seen it too. It was vertical, very long, purple, and it was one of those posters that had a word or two at the top, and then a couple of more words, so that finally, at the bottom, a full sentence was formed. And you could read it in any number of ways. At the top, the first word was, who? Then the next line was, who are you? The next line was, who are you to think? Then, who are you to think that you can? Then, who are you to think that you can change? Then, who are you to think that you can change the world? And I would like to add a line, who are you to think that you can change the world you see by changing your mind? As we know, projection makes perception. As we believe and as we think, so we see in the world that we think is outside of us. The gist of Mother Mary's messages these past 20 years is that we are heroes and heroines. We're not special from other people. All people are special. Therefore, no one is special. We are emerging divinity. We're masters in the making. There have been many changes in my life since Mother Mary began to appear to me in 1980. I've traveled around the world and have had the opportunity to speak in many countries. I've been to 50 countries, have spoken to Eskimos, to Israelis, to Chinese and the People's Republic of China, to Singaporeans, have lived in China twice, and have realized that the messages that Mary is giving to us here in the United States are also being given by her throughout the world to 400 major vocal visionaries, as well as to many other individuals who have not been given the charter to speak or write about these messages. She asked me if I'd be willing to speak on radio and television. I said, of course. She asked if I'd be willing to do a newsletter. Absolutely. If I'd be willing to put the messages in talks and workshops and audios and videos. By all means, it's my joy. It's my heart's delight to love and serve her and Jesus, Sai Baba, the saints and the angels. My entire life is yielded to spirit. I constantly watch thoughts arise and notice where I'm projecting constantly ask that I speak the truth and that my life be used in the service of humanity. We do, incidentally, have a website. It's very simple, just www.connieshaw.com. I thought when I had finished writing this book, Mary's Miracles and Prophecies, a few years ago, that the task was complete. I had been a management consultant for many years. I had done organization development for over 100 organizations, had taught training and development and communication workshops, and kept thinking, now, when this phase with Mary is over, then I'll just get back to what I was doing before. Well, it's very amusing. As soon as we finished the book, Mary told us that even though she realized that we thought that this particular work was finished, that in fact we were just at the threshold. At the threshold. Well, what on earth could that possibly mean? What it meant was she had been sending scores of people to us, people with the most extraordinary abilities. She had sent us to the ARE Foundation in Virginia Beach to study the Edgar Cayce readings, to shamans, priests, holy men and women all over the world. We had interacted with 10 self-realized people. Now, to have the chance to interact with one self-realized person, one fully illumined being in one's life, is an inordinate blessing. But 10, I should have known at that time that something was in the works, that something was developing. A self-realized person, as you know, is someone like Lord Jesus or Lord Buddha or Lord Krishna, who has attained full self-realization of the fact that he is the true self with a capital S. This indwelling presence or true self abides in all people on the planet, and it is our objective, our purpose in life, sooner or later, in one embodiment or another, finally, to lift all the veils, to come out of our misaligned, misidentity with body, mind, and emotions, and to overcome our cultural conditioning. Overcoming our cultural conditioning is our primary task, and that is what these lessons are about on the planet right now. We will have to make lots of decisions that will affect our integrity, our character, our relationships, our strength, our courage, and the piercing of the idea that we are limited in the next several years. Things are going to be extremely dramatic. They're not going to be easy, and I wouldn't want to sugarcoat anything I'm going to say tonight, and I won't. I'll tell you the straight and level truth as I see it, which is so much in alignment with what the other speakers here the past several days have been saying. Tonight, the talk is packed with about 80 items of information. There is an enormous outpouring of gifts of the Spirit on the planet right now. You may be surprised to find that this is happening in Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam. It's happening in New Thought. It's happening in the 12-step groups within the Healing of Addictions program in the United States and worldwide. It's happening everywhere. The Holy Spirit is in every single person. All people can access this. And the secret of really attaining realization is to abide in the heart, not the physical heart, the spiritual heart. There are 20 traditional gifts of the Spirit that you may have read about, memorized, learned, experienced through reading your Bible or Bible concordance, or having these manifest in your life or in the lives of your friends. We're going to be reviewing those very briefly and then taking a look at about another 19 or 20 gifts that are emerging very strongly now. There are new Marian healing sites in Colorado and elsewhere. We'll be talking about those. There are about 30 main Marian healing sites in the United States. You know, Mother Mary has said that she would not leave us comfortless. That, yes, indeed, there has been Borin, there has been Lourdes, Fatima, Garabandal in Spain, so many places in Europe, Medjugorje. You've heard of these, but you know, not everyone can afford to travel to these places. And as a consequence, Mother Mary has said that she is blessing North America now by creating innumerable healing springs, ponds, streams, and vortices and other areas of healing energy that will be blessing us in perpetuity. We will be led to them. There will be the most extraordinary healings of the mind, the heart, the emotions, relationships, character, and the physical body. We're going to be talking briefly about 7 stigmatists or stigmatists who are exhibiting some of the most profound phenomena right now. Also, there are 30 new prophecies I'd like to share with you. I would mention at this point that hundreds of Mother Mary's prophecies have been fulfilled and are being fulfilled week by week. It's one thing to receive them, and it's another to see them being played out all around us, and to turn on the television or the radio and to hear that yet another one is actually being fulfilled and coming into form. Our media is highly controlled, as we all know. Unless a person has access to alternative media or alternative newsletters or travels or has email or lots of friends, companions, and colleagues around the world, we're only getting a fraction of the news at the very best. So even if you have a lot of resources, we're still not getting the whole picture. But I think we're beginning to get a more complete picture through the speakers that we've interacted with during the past several days. And intuitively, we know what's coming. We also are taken out of our bodies at night for instruction. We also have hunches, we have intuition, and we know why we've incarnated. We've incarnated because we're light workers. Because when they gave out the jobs on the other side, presumably, either we were picked or we raised our hands and said, okay, I'll be one of those, I'll go do that. And this audience is filled with people that are authors, inventors, dowsers, scientists, healers. It's one of the few audiences where practically every single person in this room could just as easily give a presentation from this stage as any of the people that have so far, and many, many of you have. This is not to create separation, but just to acknowledge what a profound pleasure and privilege it is to be in comradeship and affiliation and association with light workers who understand that we have a big job to do. We have all the help that we need, all the resources, we'll be getting more, and there are unseen legions helping us, as well as those in embodiment all around us. I'm here tonight to bring you good news. After I had collected quite a few boxes of information in order to write this book that Mary had asked me to write, she told me one day that I'd be receiving in the mail a photograph in a couple of days that was going to be, if not the most important photograph on the earth, one of the most important photographs. She said that this photograph was going to be instrumental in helping to heal people of all faiths throughout the world, people of all ages, backgrounds, and cultures, and that I should not toss it aside. I should not think that the letter coming from the individual accompanying the picture was a crank letter. I should read it several times. I should meditate on the whole situation and consider putting it in this book. When the photograph arrived, it was a picture of Satya Sai Baba, the planetary avatar, holding up a golden egg. The letter came with the picture a few days later. And the letter said, "Hello, I've seen you on a videotape in London. My name is Dr. Dorai Singham. I am a physician. I want you to know that I was inspired by Sai Baba to send you this photograph and to let you know, in case you don't have a copy of this, that Sai Baba had himself photographed holding up this golden egg recently and said that wherever this photograph resides, there will be miracles. That if people have it in their briefcase, they will find that they will be getting new jobs. Their finances will improve. If they have it in their homes, then healings will happen. There will be resurrections from the dead, as it were, with this photograph. That it will prevent accidents. It will protect people." And I thought, well, now this is a bit extreme, that a photograph could do all this. Now really, we know that we are the I Am Presence, so what is all this about a photograph? Surely this man is deluded. But Mary had said, pay attention, don't cast it aside, be patient, just meditate on this, and it will become clear to you what to do with it. Well, I read the letter over and over and over. This Dr. Dorai Singham explained that he had had a strong feeling he should go to India and get one of these pictures. When he finally got the picture, he received it 5 minutes before he came around the corner with the photograph in his hand and came upon a dead 7-year-old child lying in the road who had just been killed in a car wreck. As he came upon this child, he thought, I heard that this photo is to be used in resurrections. He ran over to the child, he put the photograph on the child, and he asked God to please revive the child. He checked the child for vital signs. The child was completely dead. After about 5 minutes, the child suddenly was resurrected, sat up, a little dazed, in the man's lap. The man said, "We must take this child to the hospital." They had him examined. The doctor said, "Seems impossible. He was dead. He seems like a very healthy 7-year-old child." They asked Sai Baba in darshan the very next day when Sai Baba comes out to greet the crowds whether or not he had been dead, and Sai Baba said yes. And he said, "And so he was resurrected through your energy, through this picture?" And he said, "Yes, that's right. This is the first of many resurrections and many healings." Now, Sai Baba has resurrected 10 people from the dead in public. I have met one of them, and I know of many others. Sai Baba says that although we are not God who created the universe, we are divine. We are God, but we don't know it. We are awakening to our divinity. I know this sounds blasphemous, and some people will feel that this is absolutely preposterous. But just as your own father's and mother's blood flows in your veins, the divinity of your Father, Mother, God is also resident within you. Mary says that we are on the brink now of 1,000 years of peace and plenty. We have come to the period of the time of the communion of saints, and we are those saints. So is everyone else. They just don't know it. Everyone is the light of the world. They may not know it, they may not act like it, but we are awakening. The healers are awakening now. I have met any number of people in this audience that last year were working in banks, were accountants, were doing all sorts of other things, and then suddenly they woke up and they found that they had an inordinate love of herbs or healing or a massage. They changed their careers, they're very happy, and all of a sudden they're getting more telepathic, clairvoyant, clairaudient, and they're just barely keeping up with everything that's unfolding. This is quite typical of what's going on in the planet right now. I had no idea that this picture was going to be figuring so strongly in my life. It has been so much fun my whole life, but it's getting more fun every moment. Every day, I can hardly wait to get up and see what's going to happen next. By that I mean that the surprises, the profound, strong, powerful, and unusual things that are occurring are such I wouldn't believe them unless they were happening to me. If anybody told me that all these things were transpiring in their lives, I would think, well, this person is either a pathological liar or exaggerating profoundly, or there's something very wrong here. But what I know now is that when miracles are not happening in our lives, there's something wrong. When we live in the heart, when we keep looking at all that doesn't belong in our thoughts, when we're willing to be happy, when we're willing to let go of our drama and trauma and all of our garbage. It is sweet, sweet, sweet. And so is everyone that we encounter. We see the sweetness of people. We see the beauty and the love, the God presence shining out in all these gorgeous hearts that are surrounding us, that have tried to love us our whole lives when we were too busy or too blind or too stubborn or too defended or too shut down to see their love or feel their love or feel the love that we are. After I wrote the book, mail started coming in, to my great surprise. People started writing letters, emailing us, sending faxes saying, "Just wanted you to know we really like that book, but the thing is, we have had a healing in our family, or we've had several healings. We'd just like to let you know the following things." One woman wrote from Maryland, Karen Gill, to say that her 17-year-old beautiful daughter had had scrofulous eczema her whole life, under her arms and on her face and neck. It was extremely uncomfortable and embarrassing. So Karen was reading the book and thought, it says here that this Sai Baba picture does miracles. Let's just try it out right now. So she told her daughter, "Come over here. We're just going to try this out." She plopped the book right on her daughter's head, and immediately they heard a voice coming out of the room that said, "Take this child off dairy products right away, and this eczema will disappear." They did, and it did. Another person made a laminated cover for this picture and pinned it inside her pajamas, and her fibromyalgia was healed. She said, "I had to turn off the light first because my husband wouldn't understand why I was putting another man's picture on my pajamas." I said, "I know what you mean. You have to be very discerning about these kinds of things." Now, another person pinned it on the front of her shirt. She had heart problems and was not able to get out of bed and walk across the room. She put the picture on her PJs, and pretty soon she could walk around the house. And then next thing she knew, she could walk down to the mailbox. Next thing she knew, she could walk several blocks and around the lake. And then pretty soon she didn't need the picture, and she's fine now. People have healed allergies, all sorts of physical, mental, and emotional maladies. People have won new job contracts. They've used it for interviews by putting their application papers on top of the picture. They've stopped family fights by setting the picture on top of pictures of all the people in the family. I have a friend who's a musician. He was driving down the road one day with the picture in the seat beside him. His car broke down, and he thought, oh no, I'm on the freeway. What am I going to do? So then he remembered the picture and thought, aha, we're going to try this out right now. I don't know, this is not a resurrection or a healing situation, but this car needs healing right now. So he got out of the car, lifted the hood, and put the book and the picture right on there and said, God, you know I'm a musician. I'm not a mechanic, and I don't have money for a mechanic, so please, would you just do your thing on my engine here? And so he said, I don't even know the names of all these things inside the hood, but just please do it. Trusting the energy would go to the right part, and it would just work fine, which it did. So then he felt, feels like it's done it. And so then he put the hood down, turned the key on. It started up perfectly and has worked perfectly since. Now, another person told me that she had had a mountain cabin that had frozen pipes. She heard about this picture, got a copy, said, Lord, you know, I can't afford a plumber. You're going to have to do it on my pipes here, so would you just please do whatever it is? Well, she put it on the back of her toilet, and it worked perfectly. Also, if you've had a running John that just won't stop running, I've done this twice, it works perfectly. Just set it right on there and just say your prayer, and it heals it. Now, I know this is extraordinary. I know you scientists, I know you think I really slipped away from the dock, but I don't care about that. I don't care about that. This gives you an idea. Once I went to a retreat in Oregon. There were 100 people there. And there was a fellow in the back row standing against the wall. After I began the talk, it occurred to me people had no idea what I was talking about. I was talking about Sai Baba's lingam photo. You know, the one where he's holding up the golden egg. You know, the one that is called in Sanskrit Hiranya Garbha Lingam, which means the golden heart of all people. It means the cosmic seed of creation. You know that one? No, blank stares. So I said, oh, okay, it's this one. It's this one right here. See this picture? You should all get a copy of this picture if you can, and then you can keep it with you in your house, your office, your car, in your briefcase, and just play around with it. Have fun, experiment, see what happens. So just panned it across the audience like that. At the end of the talk, 3 people came up. They were really big-eyed, eyes popping, in fact, standing in front of me. One woman said, I have a PhD in psychology. Nothing like this has ever happened to me before. I was sitting in the front row on the floor. When you pan the audience with that picture, all of a sudden an arc of blue light came, hit me in the chest, and knocked me over, and it was a wonderful feeling. The woman standing beside her said, I have an international business. I am not an airhead. The same thing happened to me. What is this? I said, I have no idea. This is not my business. That's between you and God. I don't know. It's never happened before. I'm thinking, you know, this is a very highly imaginative audience. The next thing that happened was, a fellow came walking up and he said, look at my hand. And he held his hand out like that. I said, yes. Look at my hand. I was on my way to hand surgery. I am a landscaper. Yesterday, a Rottweiler dog attacked me and laid my hand open. It was a scrofulous, suppurating mess. It was starting to develop red lines. I thought I was about to get blood poisoning. I was on my way to hand surgery, and someone said, why don't you just stop in and hear Connie's talk and sing a few songs, and then you'll just be sort of buoyed up and heartened for your hand surgery. He thought, that's a good idea. I'll be in a good mood, and then when they give me the anesthetic and all that they're going to do, I won't feel it. So he said, well, when you pan the audience with that picture, all of a sudden this arc of blue light flew across the room, and I was as far from you as anybody could be. It hit my hand, and my hand is healed. And I thought, oh, sure, sure, it's healed. And I thought, well, he was just exaggerating his injury. I'm sure it was probably like a little scratch or something. Who knows? Well, the ego mind comes forward because in our culture, we are taught to immediately dismiss such things. Immediately, the rational mind is dominant. The rational mind gives us a feeling of comfort and control and security, that everything is right in this world that we've created with our projections. Everything is just the way we want it. We had to let go of all those thoughts. Next, we received letters from 2 women from Texas. They were actually from San Antonio, Texas. They said individually in their letters that they were 40 years old. They had seen this book on their mother's coffee table, the mother of one of the women, and asked what it was. And she said, oh, that's my friend Connie Shaw. See this picture in here? This is Sai Baba. He's God. He is the highest embodiment of divinity on the planet. He created the entire universe. He was Lord Krishna. He was Lord Rama. He's the father of Jesus, the father of us all. They said, what? Mom, we're Methodists. And she said, yes, I know, dear, but that you asked me what this is about, this is what it's about. And they said, well, what's Sai Baba doing in there with the messages by Mother Mary? Well, Sai Baba's her father, too. They said, Mom, come on. She said, well, look, I see you're interested. If you want to read it, you can. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. They said, well, gosh, if this is true, this is the biggest news of the 20th century. They took the book home. They read it. Both of them wanted to bear a child. Their biological clocks were just about all ticked out, as they said, because they were 40 years old and they wanted to have a healthy child, no problems. One of them had endometriosis, had been told, forget having a baby. It is impossible. You're not going to do this. Let it go. She said, I'm not letting it go. I believe in miracles. The other one's husband had had a vasectomy. He'd had it checked twice. It worked. And all the parties were faithful to their spouses. They wrote a letter saying that they went to their local Methodist church. They asked the Methodist minister if they could have a little side room while the Sunday school class was meeting. And they said, God, if it's true that something profound and wonderful can be brought about by our putting this photograph on our abdomens, please help us. Please give us a child. Please give us a miracle. 9 months later, they both delivered healthy, happy baby boys when the doctor said it was quite impossible. Now, you can imagine my reactions to all this. Infertile women are having children by putting this picture on their abdomens. Oh my goodness. Well, the next thing that happened was more and more and more mail poured in, and I kept saying to Mary, well, are you sure there's more to do? She said, oh yes, beloved, you have just crossed the threshold. And I said, well, could you give me a hint? She said, yes. You are going to be doing healing. You are going to find that healings are going to happen in talks, workshops. You'll be invited to be a guest on radio and television. You'll be writing more books. You'll be traveling all over the world. You'll be given gifts of the Holy Spirit that you don't have names or conceptions of or terms for now. I thought, oh, this is my imagination. Now I really have slipped away from the dock. Now I'm totally grandiose. In any event, extraordinary things began to happen. In July of 1997, I was invited to go to India, or rather to California, to the home of an Indian family to conduct a wedding, a very small wedding. Now, the only reason I'm telling you these stories, and I appreciate your indulging me, is that all along the way, I've been given lots of clues, and I didn't realize they were clues. I have met people that were doing things and had been doing things that are happening in my life now. And I didn't realize I was being introduced to them so that I could understand what these things were, how it looked, how it sounded, the nature of them, and that the gifts of the Spirit would be pouring through humanity in such a gigantic way that if we didn't have any sort of preparation for this, a person could go into a type of withdrawal or shock from the whole thing, because we do have to alter our concept of who we think we are. You know, someone has said that you're three people. The one that you think you are, the one which is that you think you are the body, the one that other people think you are, which is the mind, and the one that you really are, which is spirit. Now, as I was saying, the next thing that happened was that I was invited to go to Texas to some of the Marian healing sites. There's a healing site there called Christ of the Hills Monastery. There is a weeping Madonna photo, or a picture rather, it's a painting where Mother Mary weeps tears of myrrh when people walk into the room that need a healing. There are Greek Orthodox monks there that dab the myrrh liquid on cotton balls and put it on you. I had a profound emotional healing when I went to investigate this. Mary asked me if I would be also willing to go to the home of Betty Doyle. Now, these sites are mentioned in the book with the addresses and phone numbers and so on. And I said I'd be happy to. She has a swimming pool in her backyard that Jesus and Mary asked her to name Jesus Living Waters. They appeared to her one day and said, Betty, would you be willing to help us, to help other people be healed? And she said, oh, yes, yes, I would do anything for you. They said, this would be quite a demanding type of service we would be asking of you. She said, I will do anything. They said, you have a very nice life, you're healthy, you're happy, you live in a very pleasant suburb of Houston, you have a beautiful home and backyard and a beautiful swimming pool. Would you be willing to devote the swimming pool to the healing of people that we will send you from all over the world? People that have polio and that have braces, prosthetic devices, people in wheelchairs, people with eyeglasses and hearing aids and all sorts of accoutrements they would just as well be rid of. And she said, yes. Hundreds of people have been healed at her backyard swimming pool simply by putting their hands or their feet in the water, and healing has occurred almost uniformly, instantaneously, and they have left piles and piles of crutches and wheelchairs and braces and glasses and hearing aids in her backyard in big piles, which they donate to local service organizations and hospitals and clinics. Now, on this same trip, I received an invitation from a friend who asked if I'd be willing to go on a radio show and tell about Mary's messages. I said, oh yes, I'd be happy to. I thought this was a conventional, ordinary, worldly radio show. So the friend said, well, as soon as we leave Christ of the Hills, we'll go roaring across Texas. It'll take us 4 hours to get back to Houston. We'll run upstairs to this radio station, and then you'll be on the air. They'll wait for you, and it'll be taped in advance. As soon as we got there, we went into the station. The elevator opened, and there was this 6-foot-tall, beautiful, black-haired Texas woman saying, hi there, you must be Connie. Well, I am Wanda Caraway, the Yellow Rose of Texas, and we're going to be on the radio in 5 minutes. And I just was looking up at her thinking, oh my goodness, what a lot of charisma you have, and this is wonderful. Thank you very much. She shook my hand, came in and said, well, by the way, did Claire tell you that this is a Christian radio station? I said, oh, no, she didn't say that. She said, what's that book you have there? So she ripped it out of my hand, I took it back, and then she took it away, and I took it back, and she said, well, what's this picture in the middle? I said, oh, I'll tell you later. And she said, why can't you tell me now? I said, you'll understand later. And I said, well, we're going to go on the air right now? She said, yes. She said, you know, I have to tell you, we had another guest, but we canceled the other guest. Jesus came to me this morning, and he told me, I'm going to send you a person that is going to be able to speak to people all over the world of all cultures, backgrounds, religions, and nationalities about love. I said, really? He said that? She said, yes. And I said, well, then what happened? She said, that's you, darling, and now we're on the air. And she said, I forgot to tell you, this is the first day we're launching worldwide internet talk radio, and you are now on all the continents in the world simultaneously. So I thought, oh my goodness gracious, surely there's a mistake. We know there are no mistakes in spirit. The upshot of that was they liked the show. They aired it over and over. We went to Jesus Living Waters. Wanda Caraway, it turns out, is a healer. Many healings took place there that day. Extraordinary miracles took place. I went back home to Colorado. I called her a week later to thank her for being on the show. She said, oh, Connie Shaw, I have some things to tell you. I said, what's the matter? Well, after you left, something started happening to me. A clear, sweet liquid started pouring out of my ears. I said, what? Pouring out of your ears? I said, a clear, sweet liquid? She said, yes. I said, Wanda, do you realize what this means? Do you know that Mother Mary told me that this clear, sweet liquid called Amrit in Sanskrit was going to start pouring out of people's hands, out of the hairline in their part? It was going to come out of their throat chakra, that sacred ash was going to appear on their bodies, that olive oil was going to appear on the hands of healers. They would touch other people and they would be healed like that. This is wonderful. This is a blessing. I have been waiting to find out who is going to be receiving these great blessings. Wanda, this is very wonderful. This is a blessing. She said, Connie, I know about Sai Baba now. I read your book. I said, oh, you do, huh? She said, yes, I do. I said, well, this is a great blessing. That liquid is a great blessing. She said, Connie, would you just ask Sai Baba to stop blessing me? So she said, anyway, I'm just kidding you. I saw that picture, I read about that, and I put that book on my head, and it stopped. And she said, then the next thing that happened totally confounded me. Sai Baba started talking to me. I said, he did. Well, what did he say? She said, Jesus and Sai Baba started talking to me at the same time, and they said they were going to make me famous by helping Christians to understand that everybody in the world has a chance to be saved, and that everybody is on the right path for themselves, and that we are brothers and sisters, and that love is who we are, and that our task is to know and experience our love and to share it with each other. I said, really? That's profound and wonderful. She said, yes. And Sai Baba said one more thing. I said, what was that, Wanda? She said, well, he said, Wanda, you're almost 60 years old, and it's not quite appropriate for a talk show host of a Christian worldwide radio station to be wearing such micro miniskirts. It confuses people. I said, oh, that's definitely Sai Baba, Wanda. Oh, definitely, yes. Yes, he really stresses the fact that women need to have self-respect. He says that you can gauge the quality of a culture by the way they treat their women, and that when women are oriented to getting attention or trying to please other people or manipulating other people through their bodies, oftentimes we find that they overuse their bodies and their attractiveness, and they bring a lot of hardship and sorrow to themselves, and they can't understand this cycle that happens. So the more we develop self-respect and the more we respect each other, and we realize that we really are brothers and sisters, then we'll stop using each other and tossing each other away like Kleenexes, hurting each other over and over. She said, that makes a lot of sense. That's what I've been doing. I understand this. She said, you know, I think my whole life is about to change. I said, yes, Wanda, I think it is. And it did. The next thing that happened was a woman called me by the name of Barosa Adhikari, who is from Kathmandu, Nepal. She was raised from the dead by Sai Baba. In India, she had a heart attack during the daily meditation and darshan when Sai Baba comes out to heal and meet and greet the crowds. And this was October the 6th, 1996. She was brought to the hospital. She was dead for 42 minutes, and Sai Baba raised her from the dead. When he raised her back to life again, he told her that he was going to give her a new lease on life, but there would be 3 things that she would have to deal with in order to receive this great boon. 1, she was going to have diabetes. 2, she would have high blood pressure. And these would act as a brake on her so she wouldn't become a workaholic, because he was going to make her an internationally known healer. And all she would have to do is put her hand on a person's shoulder or their heart, and in her simple village way, just say a little 5-minute prayer. Oh Lord, is this the day that you want to relieve the burdens of this soul? Oh Lord, this is a beautiful soul. I have no idea what you have in mind for them. I have no idea what this person's karma is, but Lord, is this the day that you're going to heal them? Please, Lord, please do something for this soul. Thousands of people later, thousands of healed people later, she works 7 days a week. She has vibhuti ash sprouting out from her pictures and statues, and hundreds of miracles have taken place in her house, of which there are no categories and no names. She wanted to meet me, I wanted to meet her. 20 people from 4 states found out about this in a hurry. The word spread very quickly on the grapevine, and 20 of my friends wanted to go too. And so I called her up and said, you know, I blabbed this, and 20 of my friends want to come and meet you. She said, I'll meditate on it and ask Sai Baba. We talked again. She said, Sai Baba said, yes, bring them. These are healers that are tired out, burnt out, that are sick. They have been healing night and day, serving other people 7 days a week for years, and they need a healing. Sai Baba said, bring them all. I will heal them. I have special healings for each one. When we went to her home, I went twice, 2 times a week apart. As soon as I walked into her house the first time, I was bearing a big load of flowers as a gift, and a big armful of fruit, pears, bananas, apples, oranges. The moment that I walked across the door sill, immediately Sai Baba's fragrant vibhuti ash appeared on the fruit. Oms, that Om in Sanskrit means God. The Om symbol appeared on the bananas and on the fruit just as I was holding them. Vibhuti started appearing on the pictures on the walls. Fragrances of sandalwood, roses, and vibhuti began to appear in the air, and I thought, my word, we haven't even gotten in the door yet, and things are already starting to happen, so it was very exciting. The upshot of that whole thing was that the first time we went with 7 people, and the second time took 20, and the house had 63 people crammed into every corner. On the first visit, we noticed moment to moment that Sai Baba's Vibhuti ash would appear on one person's heart chakra, another person's locket inside their blouse, another person's ring, on the knee of my slacks, another person's shoulder of their sweater, and so on. Always on an area on the person's body where healing was needed, although they had not mentioned it and had not thought of it. Many healings took place. People were given gifts of the spirit. They smelled sacred fragrances. Barossa made a big, huge rice pudding in a silver bowl that was about 2.5 feet across. She turned around to talk to us. She turned around a few seconds later, and she had put saran wrap on top of the pudding, and there underneath the saran wrap was covered, the pudding was covered with Sai Baba's fragrant Vibhuti ash. The whole weekend was like that, one miracle after another every few moments. Well, I thought, well, this is just enough grace for quite a long time. I think this will last me for years. I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you. When we got home, the next thing that happened was 7 days later, a woman who was a blind woman came to visit us and was healed of 40 years of blindness. She called up the next day and said, I came to your meeting on Sunday night. This is my name. I just wanted to tell you thank you so much. I've been blind for 40 years. I woke up this morning, I could see my children for the first time in my life. I could see the mountains, I could see my furniture, I could see my hands and my whole body, and I'm healed. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number. And so, clunk. And so then she called again and said, no, this is me again. This really happened. You listen, you pay attention here. I just want to tell you, you don't understand what's happening there. I said, I don't think I do. Anyway, she carefully laid out the whole scenario again, and I thanked her and said, thank God, don't thank me. It had nothing to do with me. I can't understand this. Then 9 people called and said that they had come for a visit and they had been healed of deafness, and on and on. Now 81 or 82, something like that, people have been healed. The next thing that happened was that we gave ordinary workshops, communication workshops in Pagosa Springs, many of them in India, here and there. And people began to report that they were being healed of a frozen shoulder injury, a spinal injury. One woman said that she just started crying in the middle of the workshop. I said, what's the matter? She said, I'm seeing my deceased husband and son. They were killed in a car wreck. They're standing right in front of me. I see a band of angels. They're telling me not to worry. They know I'm very unhappy. Everything is going to be all right. They know I want to break up with my boyfriend. He's smoking pot. He's going to be healed of smoking pot. We're going to reconcile. 3 couples said, we're going to get a divorce starting tomorrow. But they didn't. And on and on and on. I was thinking, what is happening with these people? What is going on? Well, I had no idea that what Mary said was true, that there is an enormous outpouring of gifts of the Holy Spirit. We're all part of that. I thought this was hilarious when other people would tell me about these things, but then they started happening to me, and they're not funny. I mean, they're fun and they're wonderful, but the thing is we have to keep expanding our idea of who it is we think we are, which is not at all who we really are. The only reason I'm mentioning this is that you are going to find yourselves, I would wager, between March and May of next year, hardly recognizing yourselves, hardly recognizing your lives, thinking that this time, in August of 1999, is a time far away, that the life that you have known, although fun up to this point, although challenging, although painful at times, will come to be seen as though it were the life of another person. The next thing that began to take place is that some of you people here began to tell me about telephone healings that were happening. I was so impressed. I thought, wow, they're talking to people on the telephone and people are being healed? That is so wild. And I would tell my husband, you're not going to believe this. I went to a global sciences meeting and there's so many people there that are having telephone healings. People are calling them up on the phone and they're saying prayers for them and they're talking to them and the people are healed. Can you believe that? I'm glad that's not happening to me. Well, shortly after that, it did start happening. Now, a friend called Henry Martinez called from Texas and said, Connie, you're not going to believe what is happening. I said, what, Henry? He said, remember I told you about those telephone healings? And I said, yes, Henry. He said, listen, I think it might be happening to you. I don't know. It's going to be big. There are going to be telephone healings all over the world. I said, well, I don't think it'll be happening to me, for Pete's sake. I mean, I've had so many illnesses in my life. I have malaria. If I could do that, I would just be healing my malaria right now. I've been visualizing, I've been affirming, I have been chanting, I've been meditating, I've been walking, praying, taking all kinds of vitamins. I've been doing everything under the sun, having massages, having energy treatments. It's not budging. I can't figure out why it is I'm holding on to it. I think I must be supposed to be learning more compassion. You can always have room for more humility, more compassion. He said, well, anyway, I just want to tell you, if this ever happens to you or any of your friends, you just tell them. make sure the first thing you say when people call you is to ask the person, are you calling because you have some sort of imbalance that you'd like to have healed? And if they say yes, you say, all right, are you sitting on your bed? Are you sitting in a sofa? Or are you sitting in an armchair? I said, well, why would you ask them that, Henry? He said, because now they're getting slain in the spirit over the telephone. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, what it means is this, that God's energy is just getting so powerful now with all these beautiful light workers and healers now, that his energy just comes wham right through the phone. People are just talking there so innocently on the other end, and the next thing you know, wham, they just get bowled over on their backs. They fall backwards on the floor. They might be in the kitchen. Next thing you know, there's clunk, clunk, clunk of the telephone against the counter. He said, it just worried me so much. I just thought, oh, what happened to the person? They call back in about a half an hour and say, oh, Henry, that was so wonderful. And he'll say, well, what happened? Oh, well, I don't know. The power of God just came on me, and I just flew backwards on my back, but I didn't get hurt. It was like a little cushion of air was lowering me down to the ground, and I saw a vision of Jesus or Mary or angels. Let's just do it again. So anyway, people are having this experience even from abroad, even from other continents. It has happened to yours truly. I'm quite clear about the fact. It's not me. God is the doer, has nothing to do with me. We are like, you might say, PA systems or like microphones. It amplifies the energy, that's all. Step-down transformers. So, you know, we can't give ourselves any early congratulations parties, nor do we need to take responsibility. If it works, it doesn't work, it's not my business. Now, I would like to say that Mary told us that people were going to be coming to our place and they were going to be seeing her, and that many people in the Loveland area were going to be seeing her, which is happening now. That I would have about 20 friends ultimately that would be seeing her and Jesus and Ascended Masters. This has happened. 10 people who've come to visit us have seen Jesus, Mary, Yogananda, angels, and saints. There have been about 18 such individuals from the other side that have come to visit yours truly to say that I have a worldwide work of teaching and healing, that we all made a commitment before taking up embodiment in this lifetime, that they would be anchors, they would be strong beside me. There would be many times that I would feel wimpy, I would not want to do it, I would cry, I would think that they picked the wrong one, that I wouldn't be able to do it as well as just about anybody else, and that they should just go somewhere else and so on. We've been through all that, lots of crying and whining and complaining, and they've had to drag me by the hair at times practically. But they're right there, and they're right there for you too. They are not hampered in any way by time, space, distance, gravity. They are here for everybody. They say the way that you can access them is just to talk to them as you would any intimate friend. They will keep your secrets. They love you. They have always loved you. They have always known you. And they like for you to talk to them in a good, strong voice. You can do this around the house. You can do it when you're driving down the road. You can do it outside. You can do it anywhere. If you need something, just be clear about what you need. Just ask. They are waiting for you to ask them. Now, I would say that a number of things happened in the way of telephone healings that I was profoundly affected by. As we know, when healings take place, it's always 2 by 2, never 1 by 1. People come to us to show us what it is that we need to refine, to let go of, to heal. A man called me one time asking for a phone number. Then, right in the middle of the conversation, he said, oh, I have to tell you something. Now, I had only seen this man briefly twice in my life, and I never would have recognized him in a crowd. He was virtually a complete stranger to me. He said, I have to tell you something. I said, well, what can I do for you? How can I help you? He said, I feel so bad. I am just hurting so much. I have a pornography addiction. I said, you do? Well, I'm thinking, well, what does that have to do with me? He said, yes. I said, I'm thinking, help, I need some input, guidance, quick answers. What am I supposed to say to this man? And then I thought, oh, I know, it's my healing. This is my healing. I've always had a tremendous prejudice against people that used or sold pornography. Oh, yes, he's in my face. Very good. Thank you, God. All right, good. So I listened very carefully and said, would you like to tell me about this? He said, yes. I lost a fortune. I've lost my wife. I've lost my house. I've lost my children. I've lost my job. And I'm just about 1 step away from Skid Row. And I have this monkey on my back. It's been on my back my whole life. All I think about is pornography, videos, magazines, arcades. I've spent every bit of my money and probably the money of 7 other people who've supported this addiction my whole life. What can I do? I said, well, it's nothing you can do, nothing I can do, but God can certainly do it. Do you believe in God? He said, well, of course, but he hasn't really been answering me. I said, well, would you be willing to have this relieved today if he would be so gracious as to do that? He said, yes. I said, how about this? I have this Sai Baba picture of him holding up the golden egg. How about if I hold it on my lap? And how about if you put the phone on your heart and you just time your watch for 1 minute, and I'll say a prayer that'll last about 1 minute while you have the phone on your heart. Want to do this little experiment? He said, I'll do anything. I said, okay, fine. It's just an experiment. We'll try. He put the phone on his heart, and I said, Lord, you know better than I know what your business is. You know the heart, the mind of every single one of these 6 billion people. And we all have addictions of one sort or another, whether it's shopping, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, drugs, smoking, TV, work, running up credit cards, dependency on people, whatever it is. We all have addictions. I know that I have had a compulsive overeating problem. I know that I have been addicted to rescuing people. I know I have been crazy a lot of my life, and I'm working on getting uncrazy and just being healed. So Lord, could you heal us both at the same time? Well, just 2 for 1, sort of, if you wouldn't mind. If it's appropriate today, would you just see this beautiful soul and help him see that although he thinks he's a porn addict, that he is simply a beautiful soul who doesn't know he's the light of the world. He simply is playing this role. Would you lift this burden from his heart and his consciousness and help him feel the love that he is? Help him feel your love. And would you help me feel the love that I am? And would you let this body be used in some way to be helpful to some other person at this moment? Lord, I do so long to serve. I do so long to help. If you would let something wonderful happen for this beautiful brother today, I would be so grateful to you. So that was about a minute. And then we started talking, and I said, well, and he started weeping inconsolably. He cried and sobbed and said, it's gone. It's lifted. I have had a healing. I don't know how to thank you. I said, well, we know the answer to that. You don't thank me. You just thank God. It's between you and him. But I said, I've had a healing too. You'll never know what you did for me today. What a blessing. Thank you so much for calling. You thought you were calling to get a phone number, but we were connected together heart to heart because we both needed a healing, and I needed to drop some separation and hatred in my heart that I have carried for a very long time. And I have no idea why pornography is on this planet, but I know it's playing its perfect part like everything else. And I feel so good and so happy and so free and so relieved because of your contacting me. Thank you so much. And right after that, something happened to me that I had read about in books on yoga. It's this. This is something that oftentimes happened to people that were saints or sages or holy people. And I don't even know the name of it, but it's when a person becomes totally stock still. They can't move. And all of a sudden, a vision moves before their inner eye, and they're being given a deep and profound lesson. And then finally, when they have really understood it and received it deeply in their heart, they're released, as it were, from the higher self, showing them this lesson. I was sitting at my desk during this phone call. My clock was on my desk, and for 2 hours, I was given visions of people that use pornography through arcades, magazines, books, every possible way that you could imagine. And I was forced to sit there and to see their pain, their suffering, their alienation, their shame, and their guilt, how lonely, how self-despising they felt. And I had such love for those people. And I felt, oh yes, they're just people like all the rest of us. They just don't know what to do. They feel consumed by something that they think is going to bring them happiness, and it never does. As Miss Piggy says, more is never enough, no matter what it is. More is never enough, until we finally ask to be healed once and for all because we are ready to believe that we deserve to be happy. So I felt very blessed by that particular circumstance. Now, I've been healed of many prejudices over the past several years, for which I'm extremely grateful. Mary says that she's not appearing now as frequently as she is to urge us toward any particular denominational affiliation, but to tune in frequently to inner guidance and joy to help us to realize that we are all on the right path, that we're all doing exactly what we need to do, that it's not about the structure of organized denominational religion, it's about moving into mastership and divinity. As I said, there is an enormous outpouring of gifts of spirit on the planet now, in all faiths: Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, New Thought, among Sai Baba devotees and unaffiliated spiritual aspirants. In the Bible, you can find about 8 to 10 references to gifts of the Spirit. What I'd like to do is a little experiment with you right now and ask you to just close your eyes in a moment. Not quite yet, but if you'll just take your things off of your lap, uncross your arms, uncross your legs. Just take a couple of deep breaths. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And when I tell you that we'll actually close our eyes, you'll be considering the gifts that you've been given. You really need to be aware of what's going to be coming upon us, because it's going to be glorious. And you might think you're going around the bend if you are not prepared for this. Kundalini activations are going to be happening all over the planet. Light body activations are happening. Some people really think that they need to submit themselves to drugs by a psychotherapist, a psychiatrist, or to have themselves committed. This is extra normal, extra healthy functioning. We have been given the idea that our limited, unhappy, unhealthy, stuck expressions of life are all there is. Far from it. Now then, most of you, I think, probably in this group will have at least 10 of these gifts of the Spirit. I know many of you have almost all. Nobody's counting. It's not a competition. Who cares? This is just to familiarize ourselves with what is being given to us from the inside, because we are growing up spiritually. Now then, let's close your eyes. Some of your gifts may be rather new, slightly in evidence, or they might be more maturely developed. The 20 gifts of the Spirit, as they are normally recognized in Christianity and other mainline religions, are these: administration or organization. I know lots of you have that gift. Apostleship or discipleship. This means being able to discipline yourself so that you continue to consciously evolve. Casting out entities. Evangelism or enthusiastic spreading of the word, speaking your truth with conviction, regardless of what it is. The gift of faith. The gift of hospitality, and I know so many of you have this gift. Interpretation. This can mean interpretation of dreams, events, or scripture. The gift of knowledge. The gift of leadership. The gift of mercy. Ministry. Pastoring. And these can all be quite unofficial. We know that there are many physicians of a higher order here, many priests of a far higher order. You may not have a degree or a particular designation or an official title, but we see your light. We see who you are. There's the gift of miracles, the gift of teaching, the gift of tongues or interpreting tongues, the gift of wisdom, the gift of healing or resurrection. Many of you are going to be resurrecting people from the so-called dead. It's happening. The gift of prophecy. All right, you can open your eyes now. Thank you. Now, those are quite arbitrary. The 20 are configured differently according to various versions of the Bible. The next 19 or so are arbitrary on my part. A number of our speakers have mentioned yogic siddhis, or what could be construed as new or ancient gifts of the Spirit. Some of these gifts I'm going to mention have existed for thousands of years, however, and they do fall into the category of yogic siddhis, S-I-D-D-H-I-S. You know, there is a very well-known self-realized woman named Amachi from India who says that yogic siddhis can be the worst nightmare of the spiritual aspirant. And what that means is that when the mind decides that it is going to separate itself or differentiate itself through gaining some sort of attention or recognition or adulation or dominance, through being special or different, therein lies the trap of any sort of gifts or abilities. These gifts come about naturally, just as in puberty, you couldn't hold back your puberty. If your voice was going to start to be lowered as a man, or if you were starting to develop curves, or any of the other things that come along with puberty, there was no way that you could force it or hold it back. This is like that also. Each individual has their right timing in their maturation process spiritually. You are all on time. You're on schedule. You are being and doing what you're supposed to do, even though you may not think so. However, spiritual gifts, or siddhis, do not ipso facto indicate spirituality. There are many deluded people who are extremely powerful psychically. People might automatically make the mistaken assumption that therefore they are wise, or they have integrity, or they're spiritual. Not so. Check, check, check continually. Your own guidance, your own input, your own intuition, and whatever anybody else tells you. Don't believe a thing I say just because I'm saying it. You check it out. You feel it in your heart. If there's a resonance, you decide for yourself. This is not about telling you what to do or giving you advice. This is one person's experience. Hopefully there might be some helpful elements. Now, some emerging spiritual gifts are, number one, weather control by prayer and by thought. Native people have had this gift for a long time. Anglo people are developing it now too. Two, feeding the multitudes. We'll talk about that in a moment. I've seen a number of instances by different people. I know 3 people who have fed the multitudes and continue to do that. Telephone healings we've talked about, number 3. Number 4, by locations. There is a wonderful book called The Masters in the Path by C.W. Ledbetter. In this book, C.W. Ledbetter, who was one of the founders of Theosophy at the turn of the century, says that between the great second and third spiritual initiations, bilocations come with the territory. Many people have seen this body bilocating in Switzerland, on a television show in California that she never appeared on, providing inventive advice for people who are scientists in the field of quantum mechanics. They've seen her in India working at a medical camp for 2 weeks when she wasn't there. In many places, I think there have been about a dozen places. This is very befuddling. Finally, when I read this book this year, it became obvious that this is a process that is unavoidable. Now, there's a second part of bilocational healing, speaking, and inventing that takes place. During the second phase, a person is aware and is able to control their bilocational activities. In the first phase, they have no idea about that. When people began to tell me that I had visited various countries and had given talks and so on, I just was so adamant about the fact that it couldn't have been so. How could it have been so? And besides, if it were true, well then, did I behave myself? Well, what about my luggage? Did it bilocate too? Well, did I send a thank you note? Well, what if I ever run into these people again? Well then, and I don't even recognize them. Well then, they'll think I'm stuck up. I mean, this is very complicated. My ego was just having a fit because it felt totally out of control. Well, if God can take care of bilocating us for his purposes, then I'm sure he can take care of those petty egoic details too. Number 6, appearing and disappearing at will. A number of you have read the books of Dimitri Duduman or have met him or heard him speak. He is a person who's an evangelist from Europe, and he, among many other people, have smuggled Bibles into Europe, and also many other people have smuggled them into China. He has appeared and disappeared at will. So have many ministers and priests in very threatening situations at checkpoints in various countries. Number 7 is X-ray vision. This has occurred intermittently for me and for many of you. Eventually it gets stabilized. There's nothing special about any of this. This is our heritage. This is our right. This is part and parcel of who we are as divine beings. It's not special. It's just that we need a larger concept of who we truly are. Number 8, reading auras, meridians, light body, glands, and organs. I know 3 people that are expressing this right now. Number 9, resurrections. Number 10, sacred substances appearing out of thin air, amrit, holy ash, olive oil, holy water, and so on. Number 11, teleportation, telekinesis. Number 12, influencing matter or changing it. Many of you know that Sai Baba has changed gasoline into water, water into petrol when it's been needed. In an interview with a number of dignitaries from around the world, they said, Sai Baba, you're always changing matter from one form to another, but we've never seen you manifest a living being. He said, oh, that's easy, and moved his hand like this, and a monkey appeared out of thin air. Then it grew up to about this size, and then he said, the monkey's hungry. So he moved his hand like that, created a banana, gave the banana to the monkey ate the banana, hopped around the room, sat on people's laps, they petted it, and so on. Then he called the monkey to come back to him, went like that, and then collapsed the monkey, and it disappeared. He said, this is easy. When I created the entire cosmos, I wanted companionship. So I manifested myself into 6 billion fragments so that you could experience love walking, and so that you could know that you yourselves are divinity. And I will bring in 1,000 years of peace and plenty in your lifetimes. I've been very fortunate to have had about a dozen interviews with him. He healed me of a brain tumor on the spot the first time I met him. He healed me of a badly infected foot. And when I was healed of the brain tumor and the infected foot, I was on my way to foot surgery. The healings were so quiet. They were so unflamboyant. I didn't even realize I had been healed for several hours. After this talk tonight, we're going to be doing a prayer utilizing, for those of you that wanted to have Sai Baba's pictures, we brought some extra ones because several people said you would like one. Some of you have this book. You don't have to buy this book. You don't have to have his picture. You don't have to have any picture or object. You are and have everything that you need for all time within you. But we're going to do an experiment because so many people have been healed in so many talks lately, and various people have reported angels and saints abounding in the room and so on, that we thought we would try it this time. Now, number 3, living multidimensional lives. Michelle Small-Wright of Pearlandra in Virginia has written a number of books and is an extraordinary individual who lives parallel lives consciously. She brings objects and matter from one reality and one time frame to another. You can read the book Dancing in the Shadows of the Moon, where she talks about the fact that she lives on her farm in Virginia in the 1990s from 6 in the morning till about 5 in the afternoon. Then her husband goes off to work. He works a night shift. Then she goes to London in the 1940s. She has brought her dog, her squirrel, her little pet skunk, her vegetables from her garden for dinner in England during the 1940s in the nighttime. She goes there every night, spends the night there in England in the 1940s, talks with real people, and then comes back the next morning refreshed and ready to start the day again at Pearlandra. If you haven't read the book by Michelle Small-Wright, Dancing in the Shadows of the Moon, it is profound. It gets your attention. It's extraordinary. She's the reincarnation of a very advanced Lama. Levitation is number 14. Number 15 is the stigmata. You can read about the stigmata in a book called They Bore the Wounds of Christ by a man named Freeze, F-R-E-Z-E. You know, in all the past 2,000 years, there have been 321 stigmatists or stigmatists on the planet until now. Now, there are legions. You know what is happening right now? So much is happening so quickly to help us wake up, grow up, stand up, buck up so fast that we're having to draw new guidelines for what it means to be a saint, because actually everybody's a saint in the making. And I don't mean sappy saints either. I don't mean limited ideas about what saintliness is. I mean strong, bold, clear, happy, joyful, vibrant, natural, fun people who are good-hearted people, who love to serve, who trust themselves, trust God, and trust other people. They're fully, fully alive. These 7 stigmatists, who are the most famous now in the world, are Giorgio Bon Giovanni from Italy. Many of you have met him. It's very inconvenient, to be a stigmatist. You have to wear bandages on your head because it's bleeding all the time, and bandages on your hands. They have to be changed every day so that your wounds don't get infected. Bandages on your side, bandages on your feet. It's messy. It doesn't look attractive. It's a great sacrifice. These are called sacrificial souls who are giving testimony to something quite unusual that we simply cannot understand, and they are learning a great deal of patience, humility, love, and rising above the body. One of the things that I have learned through having had so many illnesses in my life is that my happiness is not dependent upon my circumstances. Whether I am single or married, whether I am rich or poor, whether I am employed or unemployed, or sick or well, or lying on my back flat in bed helpless, I can still be blissful and happy. That is the lesson. If you have not learned this lesson from being sick or divorced or married or whatever your particular consternation is, then you haven't understood this beautiful, sweet blessing. Your happiness is not dependent upon your circumstances. We have a myriad of circumstances so we can get the lesson. When you get that lesson, you are free. There is one last one I'd like to mention, that's being slain in the spirit or spiritual fainting, or the power of God coming upon people. As I said, when this happens to people, it can happen on the telephone, it can happen in your backyard, in a church, in a temple, a shrine, by a swimming pool, it can happen anywhere. When the power of God comes upon people, they are lowered gently, gently, gently down, as if by a cushion of air, and they usually have some ecstatic experience, healing, or vision when they awaken. There's a wonderful Marian healing visitation site that is quite unconventional. It's in Worcester, Massachusetts, on Flag Street. It's at the home of little Audrey Santo, who's 14 years old. When Audrey Santo was 3 years old, her brothers and sisters, who were supposed to be watching her, fell down on the job. They were occupied with something else, and she fell into the swimming pool and drowned. By the time they found her, she was floating face down, and they didn't think they could revive her. She was taken to the hospital, and she's been in a coma ever since. Now, the thing about Audrey is that even though she's been in a coma from the age of 3 for 11 years, now she's 14, she's become a very, very beautiful teenager with long, beautiful, brown, wavy hair, and she looks like she's peacefully sleeping in her bed. When they brought her home from the hospital, family and friends came to pay their respects to Audrey and to the family, to look at Audrey lying there. They didn't know how many days she would live. Nobody thought she'd be living for years in a coma. People that came to visit began to be healed just by looking at Audrey. All of a sudden it dawned on the family that something unusual was going on here. The next thing they knew, their house and their yard was turned into a shrine. Finally, hundreds and hundreds of people were coming every day to look at Audrey, to be healed. Finally, they had to cut a very large hole, like a big 6-foot window, in the side of the bedroom so that people wouldn't be coming into the house night and day. They could have some family privacy. They put some Venetian blinds there, and the neighborhood is filled with traffic and with cars constantly parking for blocks and blocks around. In the morning, they raise the Venetian blind. People come up to the window. They look at Audrey. They say a prayer. Some of them are just flung back on their backs. They're slain in the spirit. They have wonderful visions. Miracles and healings happen there. They go away happy. Audrey sleeps blissfully on, or perhaps she's out of her body watching all this with great enjoyment. We have no idea. But this is really quite extraordinary. We never know how our lives are going to be used. Just let your life be used for the greatness that is meant for you. Soon we're going to be seeing more levitations, more multiplication of food, and a proliferation of new spiritual gifts, resurrections, and so on. You know, Satya Sai Baba is 74 years old. He's multiplied the food for tens of thousands of people at a time over 600 times. I've seen him do this. I've eaten the food even after it has been out of the containers for many minutes, like a half an hour or 45 minutes. It's still piping hot. Food puffs up from the bottom of the containers until each one of the 10 or 20,000 people has eaten. He might have 10 vessels on the veranda of his temple. They might have a mashed yam, a coconut dish, a saffron rice dish or something, Indian food. He'll just tap the tops of the vessels, and these 10 vessels could not possibly feed 10 or 20,000 people. And with his will, that means multiply until every single last person here has had seconds or thirds and has had his fill. It's extraordinary. As I said, he's healed me any number of times, and many people that I know. I've also been to the home of Amy Mangru, who is a Fijian Indian in Colusa, California. In fact, I performed a wedding there in 1997. Amy Mangru has been given the gift of multiplying the food for 5 years, every week for 5 years. What happens is that he and his wife cook dishes. Many people show up, as many as 100 or 200 every single week, to visit their home and their shrine room there, which has pictures of all the saints of all the religions. And the following things happen. First of all, the food multiplies and they feed people for free every Saturday night. As soon as we started performing this wedding, all of a sudden, Sai Baba's fragrant ash started appearing on pictures of Jesus and Mary and saints and Sai Baba. Then there was a picture of Jesus on the wall, and a 2-inch wide stream of honey started pouring out of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and just down out of the picture while we were performing the wedding. All of a sudden, there was a picture on the top of the ceiling, a holy picture of a saint, and water started spurting out of the top of the head of the saint. It shot up and hit the ceiling and ran down the wall. Now, mind you, this is a little disconcerting. I'm trying to say, and now, dearly beloved, we're gathered here today, and all of a sudden there's honey coming out of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and there's water shooting up there, and so many things happening. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again. This is another one of those days. Well, there've been a lot of those days in recent years, a lot of those days. The next thing we knew, down at a little 2-foot square coffee table right beside my knee, 2 cupfuls of crystal faceted rock candy just appeared on the table. Then there was an empty vessel, a copper vessel, right beside my other knee. It filled up with holy water, just like that. So the man that lived in the house said, Connie, did you do that? Did you put that candy there? I said, I didn't touch anything in your house. I didn't do it. I didn't touch anything in your house. No, it wasn't me. He said, well, did you put that water in there? I said, well, no, I didn't do anything. You saw me. We were just doing the wedding ceremony. And he said, what about the water? I said, I didn't do anything. He said, that's what I thought. This is happening more and more. He said, oh, no. We have a shrine in the hallway. We better go look in there. I said, well, what's happening? By this time, we had married the couple. It took 15 minutes, and we're all much more interested in everything else that's happening. So he said, come around the corner. You're not going to believe this. We went running like a little stampede of people, 7 of us around the corner. We looked in the hall closet. He said, oh, my gosh, it's happening again. They have a 3-inch tall empty votive glass that on the top shelf that periodically fills up. Now, 3-inch tall votive glass that fills up with 9 gallons of holy water. So they had rigged up all kinds of salad dishes and trays and plates so that it wouldn't run the rug in the hallway. So that when this happens, it goes glug, 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 like a little fountain, and it just goes glug, 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 all the way down to all these trays. Well, yes, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 12 o'clock that night, there was so much vibhuti ash and vermilion powder and honey and so many things manifesting as a boon and a blessing to all of us and to this wedded couple. It turns out that the groom, who was 80 years old, said, oh, this is a blessing for me. I didn't tell you, I have a secret nickname. My secret nickname is Crystal Bill. This crystal faceted rock candy was given to me on my wedding day for me and my bride, who was 50 years old. He was 80. Oh, what a day, what a day. Many days like that have been happening lately. You know, Lenny Bruce, or Daddy Bruce, sorry, not Lenny Bruce. No, Daddy Bruce, the late Daddy Bruce, who was a restaurateur in Denver, fed the homeless for many years at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And when he would cut the ham or the turkey for homeless people, it would not diminish in volume or mass until every single person was fed. And this happened over and over. At the Salvation Army in Detroit, Michigan, my friend Cynthia Robinson was involved in a homeless feeding one Thanksgiving recently. They ran out of food, so she just said, God, we have to have more food. These people need more food. This is the only meal they're going to get this weekend. We have to have more food. Nothing happened. She said, Lord, are you up there? Are you hearing me? We need more food. This is all we cooked, and there are more people out there. They're in a line around the block. We have to have more food. Finally, she said, well, he says that greater gifts than these that I do, ye shall do too. And these are the times, and we are they. So she said, Lord, We just have to have more food, and that's just all there is to it. Now, would you please just give it to us, and thank you very much. She turned around, busied herself, turned around back again, and all the vessels were full of food, and they fed every single person in that line of 150 homeless men that Thanksgiving. There is a woman in Batania Falls, Venezuela, near Caracas, whose name is Maria Esperanza. She levitates. She is an adult woman who's a grandmother, and many times her adult children have gone outside looking for her, and they've said, "Mama, Mama, Mama, Mama." And they look up in the air, and there she is, lying on her back, talking to Mary and Jesus. And they don't want to disturb her, lest she might fall, so they just wait for her to be lowered down, 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 gently to the ground, and then she's set up on her feet, having had lovely visions, wonderful, wonderful conversations. She's an extraordinary being with many, many gifts of the Spirit. I'd like to tell you now about some of Mary's new prophecies. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that everything's fine, it's all over, we won, it's great now. You know, this rumor is going around. Many people have said to me during this conference, well, so, you know, earth changes weren't so bad, we got through it, everything's fine, right? And I'm thinking, well, what planet are you living on? If you don't watch the news, if you don't travel, if you're not aware of what's happening in other countries, yes, in our very nice, fortunate, lovely, safe state, we've had a very easy time of it. If you live in the Northeast, the East, the Southeast, you would say, yes, our crops are failing. If you live in Honduras, you would say, yes, our country was devastated by floods. If you lived in Europe, you would say, yes, earth changes are here. If you lived in Iceland or Greenland, you'd say, yes, our volcanoes are erupting. In Italy, their volcanoes are erupting. Actually, Nicaragua, Cerro Negro, or Black Mountain, is erupting in big plumes. The people in the Philippines know that lots of villages have been lost. The people in Pakistan know that on May the 21st, thousands of people in hundreds of villages were simply erased from the face of the earth by a tidal wave. The people in Sydney, Australia know that in May, that hailstones the size of grapefruits did billions of dollars worth of damage. Now, we don't live there. It's easy for us to be in denial and think, well, I have a nice, safe, happy life, so therefore earth changes aren't happening. This is denial, folks. This is denial. We have to open our minds and hearts and consciousness to the fact that others are suffering. Because we are safe and happy does not mean nothing's happening. Sorry, I didn't mean to get preachy on you there. All right. All right, Mary says, number one, gambling sickness has overtaken the U.S. vis-a-vis the lottery, casinos, and the stock market. When the stock market collapses, the casinos are going to go broke, further decimating the economy. You may know from the book, The Great Day of Purification by the Hopis, that when gambling comes to the reservations, to all the reservations, the greater earth changes are going to kick in. Practically every tribe and nation now has accepted casino gambling. Number two, the need of the hour is simplicity in all aspects of life. This is the time to lighten our load, get stronger, firmer, clearer, gird your loins like a spiritual warrior, knowing that the time is here when many will turn to us to be able to get through this particular period. Number three, there will be an axial shift. That's going to get messy, really messy. There'll be a lot of cleanup. A lot of people are going to leave their bodies because they'll be helping from the other side. We don't know times on all this, as we know. No man knoweth the day or the hour of these events. The karmic board decides when they are going to let the karmic descent of the U.S. or any other countries fall so that we can receive what we have created. Oftentimes they decide to let these events take place at night when families are in their beds so that if they're going to go over together, they'll just all leave at the same time. It's better and easier that way. There will be apocryphal floods within a year. There will be continuing volcanic eruptions in the Pacific Ocean and around the world, and icebergs will continue to melt in Antarctica. Number five, for clearer guidance and courage, fasting once a week is helpful from sunup to sundown. You could just eat your breakfast early in the morning, take water and juice during the day, and a late dinner, and you'd be surprised at how clarified you get. When you fast on a regular basis, you get so bright and sharp and clear and resolved, so firm, so brave, so courageous. Number six, there's a great possibility that we'll see a national ID, curbs on travel, relentless legislation striking at property rights, privacy, child safety, and protection. A lot of this is happening and has happened, but it's going to just amp up continually and exponentially. Number seven, we'll probably see a temporary suspension of the Constitution and martial law. This is only temporary. She says, beloved hearts, do not get depressed. Keep your mood up. This is your number one task. Keep your mood up. Keep everybody else up, and understand this is part of a lesson, and within it is a blessing. Do not lose heart. Number 8, these affronts to our sovereignty are temporary and will bring out the best in us, the best in our creativity, the best in our leadership, the best in our healing abilities. And it's only temporary. It's not going to last more than a few years. Number 9, it's imperative that everyone take steps to learn first aid, alternative cooking methods, and how to construct emergency shelters. You know, all those people we've been watching in Kosovo, they've been giving us practice. We've been seeing what is going to be coming here, probably. Washing your laundry out of little plastic buckets, making a simple little shelter, gathering your kith and kin together, eating in food lines. It is not necessarily going to take this form, but it could. 10, the U.S. will be decimated by storms, tornadoes, floods, fires, huge hailstones, and quakes. 11, urge other people to prepare their hearts and minds and homes for 2 to 4 years of self-sufficiency. It doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a lot of stuff if you can't afford it. But this is going to force us into community. It's going to force us into sharing, into being neighborly, into being much more creative and much more accessible to ourselves and others. 12, by 2004, the golden age will be fully anchored in. Our lives will be different. Our minds and hearts will be different. Our outlook will be different. Return to daily prayer and meditation. 13, we've become mesmerized by our creations, especially having become enslaved by our own technology, just like the Atlanteans. Now, the time that used to be spent on family interactions after dinner and on weekends is spent on email, surfing the net, sorting junk mail, going to 3 or 4 or 5 meetings a week, or shopping for things that we do not need. There's nothing wrong with sorting your email or shopping or surfing the net or any of that. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that we've become addicted to these things and have tuned other people out of our lives, and now we're very dysfunctional as a society and in our relationships and families, and we don't know that. 14, pray for these hot spots in the world: North Korea, Turkey, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Oman, Israel, Jordan, Syria, Russia, and China. You can make a difference with your prayers. Thoughts are things. The world needs your prayers. Please, please, please do this. Be willing to do this simple, easy service when you're driving, doing the dishes, when you're walking. 15, hijackings and mob violence in other countries will be taking place soon. You know, it's very interesting. People are awakening to oppression and slavery all over the world, and they're saying slavery is not an option. Now, this is a very funny little thing, and this is kind of quirky and weird, but I've been to India 25 times, and one thing I've noticed in the past couple of years is, if you can believe this, they show 1950s I Love Lucy movies in India, and they're very popular. Well, as a result of this, South Indian Muslim women have all of a sudden, just by watching Lucy and Ethel, decided they don't have to go around in that sweltering climate wearing a veil. And they've told their husbands, after watching Lucy and Ethel during the day, we want a refrigerator, we want a radio, and we're going to go downtown by ourselves without our brother, uncle, father, husband with us. And they do all these little pranky things that Lucy and Ethel do. Now you think, this is 50 years old, my gosh, talk about an anachronism. Well, in God's plan, apparently, the I Love Lucy TV reruns are helping Muslim South Indian women very peacefully, without a revolution, throw off the veil, decide that they're just as good as Lucy and Ethel and American women, and by golly, they're going to join the rest of the human race. Well, now, who would have ever thought it? It's very strange and very, very delightful how these things are happening. Now, number 16, Mary says we're going to be experiencing the regeneration of teeth, arms, legs, fingers, and toes. At St. Elizabeth Hospital now in Boston, they're doing this with pediatrics, and they're also working on the restoration of blood vessels. The noble gas technology will aid much in this regeneration. 17, there's a possibility of an attack on the U.S. from China, Syria, Russia, Iran, Iraq, and Korea. 18, we talked about iceberg sinking and icebergs creating floods that will sink coastal cities worldwide. 19, plagues and diseases will rise exponentially. A friend just recovered from salmonella. She was told by her doctor that in the past 5 years there were 500 cases of salmonella poisoning in the United States. From January to June of 1999, there have been 58,000 cases, and salmonella is showing up in orange juice and in bean sprouts, eggs, and meat. This is but one malady in one country to show you that when we say exponential increase of disease and plagues, we're not kidding. 20, a second Pentecost has come upon the world like a river of grace and mercy. The healers are awakening now. Claim it, you are it, use it, share it, be that with a capital T, which is love itself. 21, we must stand up for our rights. We must band together. We must have coalition building. This is our moment, folks, to be brave and to do what we came to do, which is to speak up, stand up, write our legislators, and to be vocal about the things that are inappropriate. Slavery is not an option. Be vigilant, be proactive. Number 22, some diseases will do a species jump. In Gulf War syndrome, men or women, soldiers that came back with Gulf War syndrome found that their spouses contracted it. The women at home became ill with MS, and their dogs got hip dysplasia. So diseases are doing species jumps. In Hong Kong, you remember, and Taiwan, they had bird flu that moved from birds to humans and then to children in Taiwan. So you get the idea about that. 23, people have more goods and services in the past than ever before, but are more stressed, more indebted, more fretful, more discontented. The endless outer pursuit of pleasure has proven fruitless. There's nothing wrong with it, however. It's not going to get you what you really want in the end. Bliss, however, is ever available within. It's ever available. 24, through resolve and focused intent for simplification, we can resume control of our schedules, control of our inner attunement, our surroundings, and we can restore balance and sanity to our relationships. We're all going sane together. 25, remember the 3 Ps, prayer, peace, and priorities. Observing peace means letting go of all separation with anyone. If you're accusing someone of being selfish, angry, or competitive, if those words slip through your lips, just ask, well, how am I being selfish, angry, or competitive? Everywhere I go, there I am. And I know when I'm being critical and judgmental, it's because there is something I haven't acknowledged within myself that I'm projecting out on you. Also, Mary says that if we would just reorder our priorities, everything we need will come to us effortlessly. The priorities are God first, family second, work third. God first, family second, work third. 26, her statues will continue to weep as a warning and protection to us that the state, the county, or the city where this happens will experience a self-created humbling. We know this happened in Medjugorje, Conyers, Georgia, Kearney, Nebraska, and Lewis, Kansas. Also, a friend took a Mary statue recently to the Cabrini Shrine, and it started weeping. Well, you think, oh, isn't that wonderful? Oh, no, that's not a good thing for Denver. Oh, dear. Well, we don't know, but this is how this goes. These are warnings in advance to let us know, be ready. Mary and Jesus are creating new healing sites in the U.S. There's a brand new one in Nelson, Nebraska. I don't know where it is, but I looked on the map, and Nelson is right near the southern border. Also at the home of Lorraine Nieto in Pueblo, Colorado. I know her. So far, she hasn't said anything about it, but she knows that this will be happening. In Montreal, Canada, Mary said that at the church of something called Notre Dame de, and I thought she said Beaurain, like as in Belgium, but I may not be getting that correctly. If anybody's from Canada or Montreal, check it out. There's probably some new healing shrine or baptismal font or a stream or pool or something in Montreal at Our Lady or Notre Dame de, starts with a B. At the end of 1999, at the end of May in 1999, this year, Mary consecrated a new Marian healing site in Colorado. Now we have the Cabrini Shrine in Golden, Colorado, but this is at the home of Jean Peterson near Bailey. Healings and miracles are taking place there, and Jean's number is on our website. She's getting her website ready to go. At her property, there's a beautiful grotto with wonderful energy, and 52 wooded acres and 7 pools representing the 7 chakras connected by a stream. The 4th pool, in a heart shape, represents the heart chakra. Jesus appeared there a few days ago and said that he's going to be leaving a permanent sign for humanity in the future. He said that the secret to self-realization is abiding in the sacred heart within oneself. Jean, would you mind just standing up and waving to everyone? Let's give Jean a hand for all of her selfless service to so lucky to have Jean. Now, number 28, there's a possibility of an attack on the United States in a number of our coastal cities. Our citizens have fallen asleep. We've dismantled our safeguards. There could be a possible invasion of the U.S. You've read the 3 visions of Washington about the First World War in Europe, Second World War. The 3rd vision was about an attack on the United States, an invasion with hand-to-hand combat to the citizens. The citizens finally routed the enemy, but they were tired, and there was a lot of destruction. And everybody had to stand up to protect the country. 30, as bombing occurs elsewhere in the world, we'll have tornado and flood damage here. Instant karma, faster and faster consequences. We do not seem to understand the connection between killing people in other parts of the world and the fact that Mother Nature gives us a boomerang back on us. Eventually there will be a dawning awareness, but she says the people of the United States are not going to be cowed by all of this repression. They are not going to be cowed. They are going to rise up in one mighty mass, and they are going to say, no, 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 this is not acceptable. Many lessons will be learned in honor, integrity, and sacrifice. We have what it takes. We have what it takes. You are strong, beautiful, bold, courageous, and we can do this. The story is over. It's already happened. The end is already finished, written in eternity and in the etheric and in the Akashic records. It's that it has a happy ending. We have to move through it informed, though. We can't say, just sit down and say, well, I know how it turns out, happily ever after. We have to move through it. We have to rise up. We have to integrate it and synthesize it. Now then, Sai Baba's here to prevent all-out nuclear war, to help us actualize our divinity, and to initiate 1,000 years of peace and plenty by the year 2004. I would just like to say in closing that your character is your power. Honesty is priceless, and your discipline decides your destiny. That concludes the talk, and now what we're going to do is ask you to please take out the things that you brought. If you brought something that's in your pocket or your purse or your wallet or your tote bag, I know some of you have brought pictures of relatives that are ill. You have brought a special little prayer book or a rosary or something else that's very meaningful to you spiritually. It gives you comfort or inspiration. This is the time to get that, and we're just going to use this to access a devotional mood now. This is a very multicultural interfaith program, because truly we are all brothers and sisters. You're on your right path. Your right path is none of my business. Everybody's doing exactly what they need to do, and they're beloved of God. Now then, if you will uncross your legs and relax, I'd like to have you close your eyes for 4 or 5 minutes. And please, to the count of 7, let's inhale slowly to the count of 7. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and relax your shoulders and your neck and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can relax your jaws and your furrowed brows. That's it. Good. Now inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale. Just relax. 1, 2, 3. That's it. 4, 5. Good. 6, 7. Now just sit there quietly. And now we begin. Dearest Father, Mother God, we deeply thank you for the opportunity to gather the past few days, and especially the blessing of this evening. We know that you're the creator and the enjoyer of this world, and that, in the highest sense, it's perfect. We offer ourselves as instruments to you this evening, instruments of your healing and loving light. Please help us know our own wholeness and the wholeness of others that we meet along this path. Please help us know the truth of the wholeness of everyone, the truth of the fullness and wholeness and perfection of ourselves. We feel your loving presence here now, in gratitude. We have protected ourselves now with a clear golden egg of light. This light is transparent. We feel at ease, relaxed, confident, and fully protected. We know that the I Am Presence, that our guardian angel is with us, and that we are fully relaxed and peaceful in your love, ready to receive your love and your grace. We feel your loving presence now as light, light surrounding us, and as grace, power, strength, healing, and glory. And now we would like to offer the names of all those in our families and in our friendship circles, our colleagues and acquaintances that are open to having any sort of a healing now. Physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, relationship. Call the names and faces of those people forward now in your mind. Just see them vividly. As you repeat the names of your loved ones and your colleagues now, know that each person will receive a healing in God's timing. It's not up to us, but we know it has already happened. Now visualize a circle of love and light that enfolds all of us, expanding and encompassing each one in this room. And feel and experience the light moving through and around all the people in all the rows of chairs, all of the people at the vendor tables in the back, the people that are outside at the registration booth, the people who are residents of the hotel for this evening, all those who've parked their autos here, all the staff throughout the hotel, everyone who comes or leaves this hotel. Each one is touched by love and light and healing and blessing. And now we'll move above the hotel so that we can see the entire city of Denver, sparkling, shining, gleaming below us. We move higher now, and we bless the state of Colorado, the blessed state of Colorado, which has a big job ahead. As we move higher, we're able to encompass the western states of the United States. And then as we move higher, we're able to see the entire continental U.S., and we bless our precious beloved country. And we bless Hawaii and Alaska, Puerto Rico and Guam. We bless Canada and Mexico. And now, as we move higher, we see that we can see the entire globe, this beloved earth. We see beyond the boundaries, but we know the geographical configurations. And we call to mind all of the countries in North America, South America, Central America. We are now moving to the east, and we call to mind all of the oceans, all of the seas, all of the rivers. We see Europe, and we bless Europe. We see the Mediterranean. We move now to North Africa, Central Africa, and we bless Africa and all of its citizens and all of its species. Now we move to the Middle East. We bless all the countries of the Middle East, all the bodies of water. We bless all the species there. We move across to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, blessing all the citizens of those countries, all the leaders, all of the species. We see Asia. We see China, North and South Korea, Japan, Burma, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. We bless all of those countries, all the bodies of water that surround them. We see Australia. We see Tasmania and New Zealand. We bless all the people and all the species. We move across the Pacific. We bless all the island chains, all the islanders, all the species, the animals, plants, the air, the land, the water. We now move to Antarctica. We bless all the ice shelves, all the icebergs, all of the water animals, all of the mammals, all the land animals. We move around to the North Pole, to Iceland and Greenland, Nova Scotia. We bless all the people that live in those areas, the land, the water, the air, the mineral kingdom, all life forms. And now we appreciate for a moment and envelop with our heart's love our gracious, generous Mother Earth. We expand into every level of existence and other realms beyond our solar system. We move now out into the galaxy. We fill our universe with love that we are, knowing that we are not limited. As far as your imagination can reach and beyond, your love is extended. It heals, it blesses, it unifies, it harmonizes. And now in this silence, listen to the still, quiet voice of your loving Creator inside yourself, as still as your breath. And hear these words penetrate to the depths of your very own sacred heart, and repeat them in your own mind, knowing that we mean only the highest and the best for all. I am divinity itself. Silently you repeat this. I am divinity. I am divinity. I am part of God. I am not different from Father, Mother, God. Individual, supreme, absolute. I am being, awareness, bliss. Grief and anxiety can never hurt me. Grief and anxiety can never hurt me. I am ever content. Fear can never touch me. I am divine. I am divine. I am no different from the love of God. I am held in the divinity and the bosom of God. I am He. He is I. As the truth of these words is implanted deep in your own hearts, remember this truth. I am divinity. I am God. I am not different from my beloved God. As you cherish this truth, begin slowly now to draw your awareness back into this room, giving thanks, deep, grateful thanks to God for all things. Thanking your sweet Father for all the love, the grace, the glory that is continually cascading down upon you. And now, when you feel ready, bring your awareness back to your feet that are on the floor underneath your shoes, the chair that you're sitting on, your hands resting in your lap, and ask at this time for the specific healing that you have come to request this night for yourself and specifically for those others. Cherish in your heart the knowledge that you will receive a healing and your loved ones will as well. It will be in God's time. Acknowledge your gratitude once again. So it is. Know that it is done. Amen. And when you feel comfortable in doing so, you can adjust yourself in your chair. You can move your feet. You can move your hands. And when you feel like it, you can gradually open your eyes and join us back here in the room. Now, to conclude, Judith Parr is going to lead us in a two-part song where together we will show our gratitude for all we have been given and are being given. Please do yourself and do us a favor. Sing boldly. Sing boldly from your heart. Not timidly and wimpily, but boldly and strongly, lovingly. Let us hear your voices. Thank you so much, and now Judith is going to lead us in a song.
Beloved ones, God does not create sickness. We create it through our separations, for how we have separated ourselves from the source, God, all that is. And we are not the healers. God is the healer. And let us see the Holy Spirit now descend into this room. We seal the walls, the ceiling and the floor from outside influence. See the dove of Holy Spirit land on your shoulder. And accept the grace that God always gives us. And it is yet for us to receive and to accept our worthiness. Oh my God, how I love thee, how I love thee, how I love thee. Oh my God, how I love thee, how I love thee, my God. God, how I love thee, how I love thee, how I love thee. God, how I love thee, how I love thee, my God. Oh Dios, Dios, cuánto te amas, cuánto te amas, cuánto te amas. Oh Dios, Dios, cuánto te amas, cuánto te amas, Dios. Sí, 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 cuánto te amas, cuánto te amas, cuánto te amas. Sí, 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 cuánto te amas, cuánto te amas, Dios. Oh my God, how I love thee, how I love thee, how I love thee. Oh my God, how I love thee, how I love thee, my God.
Anything I could say after that would be superfluous, except to say thank you so much, Connie and Judith. For those of you who knew Lou Jeffers, it has just been passed on to me that she passed away yesterday. I have an address and a phone number should you wish to send cards or condolences. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow morning.